Anti-D Law welcomes you to the 7-day course for the LSAT India. In this course, you will receive 7 lessons each for logical reasoning, analytical reasoning, and reading comprehension. So let's begin with today's lecture. Today's lesson is AR7, the 7th and the final lesson on analytical reasoning in this course. This question set has been taken again from the LSAT India official prep test 3. And you can find this and look at the original question if you want to, using this reference on the official LSAT India website. So as you can see, this is the entire question set from question number 11 to 16. If you want, you can pause the video now and try solving the entire set by your own self. Otherwise, I'd recommend that perhaps you can pause when I tell you to in the course of the video, because I would make you pause at various steps and ask you to solve. So you can perhaps follow those directions. So let's go ahead. So as you can see, this is the stimulus, the part that applies commonly to all of the questions from 11 to 16, right? And it is important for you to spend some time with this and to be able to kind of make a diagram or a little table or a map so that you can assimilate all of what is given in here in a little tabulated form, so that you can then use this to solve the questions later. So just take a moment and try to tabulate this data, try to make some sense of it, organize it, take around a minute or two, and then we will do this together. So just pause the video and take a moment to understand and make sense of all of this. Alright, so I hope you'd pause the video and given it an attempt. So as you can see, it talks about 7 components. Alright, the 7 components are these 7 consecutive alphabets starting from S till Z, right? And you can see that there are 7 consecutive steps that are spoken of. You have 7 steps, right? And what you can see here is that you have this thing like a 4th step, a 4th component. So the 4th component, so you know that each component is attached exactly once, which means if this is the 4th component, it means it's the 4th step. Then you can see something like before, after. So as you can see, it basically means that you have 7 steps and you have these 7 components and 1 component at a time. So we can kind of think of it like this, that we'd have these 7 components that are put in 7 steps. So let's draw our steps. We have 7 steps here. Alright, so we have our 7 steps, right? And now we know that each component is attached exactly once, either by hand or by machine, but not both, okay? So each of these is either by hand or by machine, but not both. It's an important thing for us to remember. Now that we know this, now let's go ahead and look at the rules one by one. Let's take the first rule, this one, that X is the 4th component attached. So let me just enter that here. X is the 4th component attached, so I've put it here. Let's look at the next one, that exactly 2 components are attached by hand sometime before X is attached, which means before X is attached here in this area, 2 components would be attached by hand. All right, then let's look at the next one. It says no component is attached by hand before T is attached. That means if there is T here, okay, in whichever step it is, you can have something attached by hand only along with it, which means T itself, or after T, right? That's what the meaning of not before is. The meaning of not before means either with it or after it, right? That is the difference between not before and after. So, you know, not before is like a greater than or equal to sign, and after is like a greater than sign. This thing, the equal to, is what is contained in not before, right? So when you say that no component is attached before T is attached, it means that nothing is attached before T, which means if this is T, then nothing is attached by hand before T. So it can either be with T, which means T is attached by hand, or after T. this is not possible, this and this are possible. Okay, so what that means is that if two are attached by hand here, right, out of these three positions, if two are attached by hand, T will have to be here or T will have to be here, right? Because that's the only case in which you can have two attached by hand. Suppose if T is here, then these two positions are attached by hand, and if T is here, then these two positions are still attached by hand, but T also is attached by hand, right? Okay, let's just keep these two possibilities here because that's what we get from this one. It says W is attached at some time before T. Okay, now if T were here, then W would have to have gone here. So that makes it very clear for us that since W is before T, the first position will have to be W. Okay, and that means that T is attached by hand. We know it because these two positions are attached by hand. It means that T is attached by hand. All right, and we also know that the position 3 is attached by hand. All right, now it says Y is attached at some time after both Z and S. Okay, now if you just look at the options that remain with us, we have now utilized, out of our options, we've utilized W, T and X, right? Now Z and S will have to be either here and here, okay, or they can be here and here, right? So Z and S, the earliest that Z and S can be are these two positions, Z and S. If these are the positions of Z and S, in that case Y will have to be here, right, sometime after. So either it can be here or it can be here, which means if you will notice that if you have to accommodate Z and S here and here, then Y will either have to be in the 6th position or the 7th position. Y cannot be in these positions, right? Which means that we've got one more piece of data, that since Y is attached after Z and S, Y will have to be in one of these two positions only. Okay, the other thing that you know is whatever is attached in the 6th position is attached by hand. There is one more thing. Is anything attached by machine? So you've got a description of what is attached by hand. Now I have a question for you. Take a moment, pause the video if you must, do not listen to my answer immediately. On the basis of this data, can you say that anything has been attached by machine? You see, nothing is said about the 5th position. Let's say, for example, it does not say hand, it does not say machine. So you cannot say it is attached by machine. This is a case of you're not knowing it. Okay, like for example X, you don't know whether it is attached by hand or machine because it just tells you when it is attached. You're told it's attached in the 4th step, but you're not told as to whether it is attached by hand or by machine. So you tell me now, take a moment, is there a position where you know that it has been attached by machine? Pause the video, I will be telling you in another 2-3 seconds. Just pause the video and think by yourself first. Yes, there is one place which you can say surely that it is attached by machine, and that is the 1st position here. Now how can I say that this position is attached by machine? That is because you know that no component is attached by hand before T is attached. Now this is before T. Since it is before T and everything has to be attached either by hand or by machine, so this is not by hand, right? So we know that this is not by hand. If it is not by hand, then it has to be by machine. So let me write this down for us. So we know that W has been attached by machine. So now we've, in this little table here, in this little diagram, we've been able to understand all of what has been given in the directions to us. Okay, so now let's go and take the questions one by one. So we are here with our first question. Make sure you pause the video at this point and try to solve the first question on the basis of what we've studied. That is when the video will make and this lesson will be of maximum use to you. All right. Okay, so I hope you pause the video. So as you know, we'd seen that the first position is W, the second position is T, the fourth position is X, third position we do not know. All we know that it is by hand. Now, we are only concerned with the first three components, so I'm not going any further, right? So you know that the first two have to be W and T. When you look at the options, you can see that only this option A has W and T. So immediately I know that my answer is the option A. And this question is very simply done. Let's proceed, go to the next question. Alright, the 12th question is something that's very simple. We discussed this already in the explanation. The one that has to be attached by machine, as we discussed, is W. Let's go to our next question. Alright, so take a moment to pause this video and solve this question by your own self, and then we will solve this together and you can listen to my explanation. Okay, so I hope you paused it. I'll solve it for you now. So as you can see, if V is the seventh component, which means that you have V here, okay? The other things that you know are that you have W here, you have T here, you have X here. There is one more piece of information that we can add here. As you noticed that we'd seen that since Y is attached sometime after both Z and S, we had seen that Y could be in only one of these two positions, right? We'd identified that. And since V is already in the seventh, it means that Y would have to be in the sixth. So let us write that down. So we know that Y will have to be in the sixth position, okay? And now we know that whatever is in the sixth position, whatever is in the second and third position, would have to be attached by hand, right? Now you are being asked here what could be attached by machine. So we know that this is attached by machine and these are attached by hand. These are the only details that we have about hand and machine, right? So now that we have the entire set, let's look at the options. It says each of the following could be attached by machine except. Let's look at S. We have no details for S. For V, well, we have no details. For X, again we have no details. For Y, we have details. Y has to be attached by hand, which means that it cannot be attached by machine. So therefore, our answer to this question is the fourth option, which is V, which is Y, because Y is attached by hand, therefore it cannot be attached by machine. Let's go to our next question. Alright, so make sure you pause the video and try solving the question by your own self first, and then we will look at the solution together. It's a very simple question, just requires a little presence of mind. So we again start off with what we know. What we know is that this is W, this is T. Here you have something which is made by hand. Here you have X, and here you have something which is put up by hand. And now let's look at what you're seeing here. It says which one of the following is a complete and accurate list of the components which could be attached in the sixth step. So right now we are dealing with the sixth step, okay? Now what is the meaning of complete and accurate? What that means is that if there are, say, three possibilities here, okay? Let us say you can have Y, you can have V, and you can have Z. I'm just giving you an example. Let us say you have these three. And suppose you say pick an option that has only Y. Now, if you say one of these, it is accurate because yes, Y can be in the sixth position. But is it complete? No. Because when you have a total of three, you should mention all of them. So you want to see as to which one of these options not only is accurate, which means that there is no mistake. So let us say, for example, in the sixth position, you cannot have, let's say you cannot have W. Just for example, if you cannot have W here and you write W, you find W in an option, it means that is inaccurate. Okay. So accuracy means that you do not have anything wrong. Complete means that all the possibilities have been given. So now let's try to see as to what can work for us. So you know that we have to see as to what are the possibilities in the option, in the component or the step 6. Okay. Now let's start with the options one by one. Look at the first option. It has S, W and Z. Now you see W is something that is fixed in the first position, which means W cannot be here, right? So I can eliminate the option 1, or the option A can be eliminated, right? So just because I see W, I'm certain that this cannot be in position 6. So I just eliminate option A because of this W. Likewise, I can eliminate option D because it contains W. Similarly, if you look at option B, it contains T, and T, as you know, is in the second position, so I can eliminate this as well. That leaves us with only the option C. Okay, it's very simple, as you could see once again, that you know the positions, you don't know what's, so you do not know what is in position 6, right? But that does not matter because you know that W and T are here. So when you can find the W and T, what remains is the option that does not have W and T, and therefore this will be the right answer. Okay, let's go to our next question. Once again, make sure you pause the video and solve the question by your own self, and then we'll do this together. Now this asks you as to which of the following components must be attached by hand, right? So we've seen that already. We have W here, we had T here, one position here, X here. You don't know what is here, but whatever is here is going to be attached by hand. Now you know that these two positions are going to be attached by hand, and therefore we know for certain only for this position that T will be attached by hand, and therefore the answer to this is the option A. We'd already worked this out when we were doing the passage, when we were doing the stimulus, when we were doing this, we'd already figured that out. So we know that the answer to this is the option A. Okay. Alright, so pause the video and try solving this question by your own self. It's the last question. It involves a little bit of more understanding than some of the others. It requires you to be a little more concentrated. So do make sure you solve this by your own self first, and only then should you listen to my explanation. Alright. Okay, so what we know is that S is attached by a machine. Let's see what we do with that by first writing what we know. We know that this is W, this is T, that this is something which is attached by hand. This is X, and this is something which is attached by hand. All right. Now where can you add S? Okay, you can put S only in a blank position. So which are our blank positions? Our blank positions are 3, our blank position is 5, 6 and 7. Now where can we put S? Can we put S in this position number 3? No, we cannot, because S is attached by hand. That would mean that S is attached by hand, but actually S is attached by machine, which means that S cannot be here. Alright. Similarly, S cannot be in position 6, because if S were in position 6, then it would be by hand. So I eliminate this as well. Okay. Can S be in position 7? Can S be here? The answer to this is no, because the sixth component, so no, because Y is attached at some time after S. So if S were to be here, let us say if I were to put S here, then where would I put Y? Y has to be after S, which means that S cannot be in the 7th position also. That leaves only one possibility for S, which is the 5th position. So I will write S here. So I hope you're clear with the fact of how we got S in the 5th position. Okay, now that we have these positions here, and we know that this is by hand, the 6th position is by hand. Now let us see what we can do with the remaining positions. Okay, let me just write the hand on the other side. Let me write this here for the sake of clarity. So this is hand and this is hand. Okay, this is also hand, and this one is machine. Okay, and what we know is that in this case, since S is attached by machine, So we are told this thing, so we'll put here machine. This is what we get from the question. Okay, now you're being asked as to which of these is attached by hand or machine. So let's try to add some things into this set that we have here. Okay, let's try to add some things. Now, where can you have y? Okay, you know that y has to be in one of these two positions. Y will either have to be here or y will have to be here. Okay, because you have the options that remain with you are z, v and y, right? So we have to fit these three options in these three places. That's what we have. We have three slots. These are the three slots that we have, and we have these three options for which we know something about y, because y has to be in either the 6th position or the 7th position. So let's take two cases, right? Because we are looking at a case of which one must be true. If something must be true, then it should apply in all cases. So let's just make all the possible cases now. Okay, so what I'll do is that in the first case I'll have y in the 6th position. All right, so I'll put y in the 6th position, and what we'll do in the next case is that I'll put y in the 7th position. Everything else remains the same. X remains here, this t w. Okay, so now if I take the first case here, when y is in the 6th position, now you surely know where z is, because z has to be before y. It means z has to be here. Okay, so let me just write that down. Z has to be here because z has to be before y, and then v would come here. Okay, let's take the second case now, this one here. Now since y is here, z has two possibilities. Z can either be here or z can be here. Now if z is here, then v would be here, and if v is here, then z would be here. You get my point? Let us say if z is here, then v would be here. On the other hand, if I were to put v here, then z would be here. So if you want, you can even make those two cases, right? I can draw them as two cases. Let me make the third case. So let's say this is wt, and here I'll put z, x, s, and I'll put v here, and we have y. So totally I've given myself three cases. These are the only three possibilities, right? Now something which applies in all of these three cases, these are the three cases. If it applies in all three cases, then it must be true. So now let's look at the options one by one. Like I said, this question is a little difficult. It requires you to pay a little attention, but you'll find that it's not that hard. You will eventually, when I was solving the question, I'd solve it much sooner, but right now I'm explaining it to you, so it takes a little more time. Okay, even when you solve it, you'll be able to solve it soon. So don't bother about the time. What matters is the method. What matters is getting the question right. It doesn't matter speed. LSAT at this point, given that not too many people write it, is not a test of speed. It's a test of accuracy. Perhaps tomorrow, when more people start writing LSAT India, then it would also become a test of speed. Okay, so let's look at the first one. It says Z is attached by hand. Let us look at the first case. Let's say we look at this first case. Z, yes, Z is attached by hand. Okay. We look at the second case. Z is here. Oh, again Z is attached by hand. Okay. We look at the third case. Z is attached by hand. So this thing holds in all three cases. So what I have to do is that I have to mark this as a potential right answer, right? Now let's go for our next option, option B. Okay. B says that X is attached by hand. Here X, we don't know. In all the three cases, we don't know what it is attached with, right? So you cannot say that it must be true. Therefore, I will have to eliminate this option B. Okay. Next, we look at the option C. It says V is attached by hand. If you look at where we see V, okay, when you see V in the first case, you do not know what it is, Although you can see that in this case here and this case here, it is attached by hand. But like I said, if something must be true, it should apply in all three cases. So since it does not apply here, we don't know whether it's by hand or machine, I will have to eliminate option C. Next we go for the option D. It says, why is the seventh component attached? Okay, why is the seventh component attached? If you can see, true, in this case, why is the seventh component attached? In this case also, why is the seventh component attached? But here, why is the sixth component? So like I said, it has to be true in all three situations. Okay, so which means that this is not right. So I will have to eliminate this option as well, leaving us with the answer that Z is attached by hand and A is the answer. So with this, we've solved this entire question set. I hope this video made sense to you. In case you have any questions, you may ask me in the comment section and I'd be happy to respond. Also, if you find a shortcut or a shorter method, since there definitely do exist more methods to solve a question, I'd be glad if you can mention that in the comment section. I'd acknowledge it and thank you for that. Thank you for your patience. I hope this lesson was of worth to you. All the best.